Some more insights about the notion of reincarnation. For me, the next great insight connected to the idea of reincarnation has to do with love and loss. One of the greatest sufferings of humanity is the grief we go through when we lose those we love. And whether when we're dying or when we're staying behind. And what if we didn't have to feel that desperate grief? You know, what if we didn't have to feel it? Because surely the worst kind of grief is that has no belief, no faith, just a dropping away into nothingness of those we love. You know, this is the materialistic viewpoint of our current age. May not be everyone who's listening to this, but it's important to know the backdrop. So what if we knew that we could never be separated from those we love? What if our loved ones are just like the waves of the ocean? And if we can bring our awareness off the individual wave and into the ocean, then we never need suffer loss. At least not in the same way. And then it would be rather like saying farewell to the guests at a party, knowing that we'll see them again soon. So here's the great notion held by the sages, that we incarnate in soul groups, in fractals, in collectivities, in patterns or constellations like crystals, permanent atoms, that when they're out of form they interlock perfectly to form geometric symmetries of consciousness. And such consciousness surrounds our planet like a luminous shroud. So souls or crystals or shards of consciousness, imagine that, individuating in undulating wave patterns, dancing through time and space, and the whole pattern constantly evolving, breathing. So your mother in one life is your child in another life, and your brother in another, and your enemy in another, but always connecting with you, always playing out a theatre of evolution. And we travel together in these symmetries across continents, across gene pools, across eons of time. And then there's awakening. And when awakening comes, it moves like a virus down these lineages, radiating outwards. So all our relationships, good and bad, happy, sad, every relationship thus becomes a repository of awakening. You know, we can trigger more light and more growth in each other. And the more challenging a relationship is, the greater its potential to trigger our inner luminosity. And this is what I call reciprocal luminosity. You know, we share the light with each other, both ways, through our relationships. We play out the shadow patterns, and then when we're ready, the transformation of those shadows, through forgiveness, through tolerance, through compassion, through kindness, through all the dramas that take place in our relationships in all these lives. So we get to kind of trigger each other's light, reciprocal luminosity. And what of soulmates? You know, this enduring myth of the twin soul, the perfect lover, the binary flame that perfectly matches our own. You know, this is also a myth we find woven into the reincarnating drama of the reincarnating soul. We sense its truth. We covet it through our art, through our science, our music, our romance, our dramas. Not our science. Not yet. We long for this perfect union, you know, with another. And it's said by the sages that 12 times only in all our incarnations we get to be with our twin soul. 12 times in 12 eons. It's a myth. Who knows? But we come to a life where we can rest with our beloved, with the crystal that interlocks perfectly with our own, the vesica, the myth of perfect love, of true love, And this is why the memory lives in us in each lifetime. And many times we meet this twin soul, perhaps. But many times we can't be with them because they end up married to another. Or perhaps the timing is just off. Perhaps they come as our brother or our mother or our child even. Perhaps the wounds we carry in this particular life are just too great to make it possible for us to be together. Perhaps we incarnate as enemies and we destroy each other. Perhaps one stays out of the form while one is in, and all we feel is this deep lonely ache of the loss because we can't feel them here. The drama is Shakespearean. It's unendingly beautiful in its ache, in that it's simply here to teach us so that we can learn to open, to grow, to forgive, to let go, and one day, to begin to transcend the drama itself. Even the drama of perfect love. And this then is the purpose of it all, that slowly we can learn to become detached, as the great teachers have guided us towards that, to let go of the outer quest for love, and for truth, which is always ephemeral, and to seek the eternal within. That we have to come to this great truth. And as our awareness of the great truth grows, so our love grows with it. And so truth is revealed within us like a memory. We begin to awaken. We see that we are an actor, and a detachment arises as we surrender deeper and deeper into the whole, into the drama and the dance. And with this detachment comes this vast love, a love that transcends any individual connections. So when a loved one dies, we remember that they live inside our heart, and that our heart is eternal. They're actually a part of our greater collective body. And each constellation, each soul group interlocks with another soul group, which interlocks with another and another to form this great collectivity of humanity's higher self, the human heart, an oversoul, an archangel even, a higher collective beyond our comprehension. So this reciprocal luminosity, it's like a supernova. It triggers greater and greater awakening, an inner light. And there's only one direction. Good and evil are played out on the stage. The awakening of truth, though, it's beyond both. Although good, as Vivekananda says, good is close, very close to truth. And thus, as the story goes on, our incarnations come and go, and we polish the jewel of our being as we draw this light from all those around us, from our relationships. And then when one awakens, the grace pours through that whole lineage, that fractal, and within a few generations, the whole fractal awakens like a flower. It's a chain reaction. Yeah, so this is the dance and the drama that I want to weave before us, to consider, to contemplate. And I want to leave you with the image of the sun, because the sun is us in the future. Maybe you thought the sun was a steaming mass of atoms and hydrogen and helium, as our scientists would have us believe. And it is that. But what if it's more? If you deconstruct a human body, and all you'll find is the elements, you'll never find the indwelling soul. It's just like, how are you going to find that? How is a scientist going to find that? Recently I read an article by a scientist trying to prove that life after death cannot exist because we know how atoms behave. This is desperate materialistic mind clinging to the wreckage as the ship sinks. Because the sun is an earth that's already ascended. And all the chains of its being, all the families of its individuated awareness, all those collectivities and constellations and families and groups have realized their collective oversoul. And the luminosity has triggered a chain reaction at the core. And the result is a collective awakening far beyond our understanding. That's the sun. And that's where we are heading. And it's beginning in our epoch. I mean, it began millennia ago. But the chain reaction is beginning now. As more and more individuals are waking up through the drama, realizing their divinity. And so it begins, the beginning of the end of reincarnation itself. For when the whole begins to realize what it is through its parts, then the game is over. And the very presence of the sun itself is to me, it's evidence of the eternal. Even though we know that the sun too will one day die. But it hangs there in the sky as a symbol of the inner truth. And the outer is modeled on the inner. The earth revolves, night comes, and then every morning we're born again. And again, and again, and again. And it isn't that the sun goes down. The sun remains constant. It's we who move. So the sun represents the eternal. And even in the depths of night, the sun is still shining as brightly as ever. Same with us. Even in the depths of our suffering, that eternal flame burns as brightly as ever. We just have forgotten it temporarily. So contemplate these things when you're next, particularly when you're next around or close to those who are dying. Remind yourself that you cannot be apart from this being who is leaving. It's a temporary farewell, a veil drawn over your eyes, but never drawn over your heart. Our heart knows the truth of eternity. All our beloveds live forever inside this heart. They're a part of our heart, of the one heart. So let death awaken an even greater love inside us. Let this person's passing be the wave that carries you into the great ocean where all hearts are one heart.